Hey, how's it going? Alright, my first long-ish term suppressor review, and it's on the Dead Air Sandman-K. Before we go over the can, though, let's ask an interesting question. Why even bother using a suppressor at all? Suppressors tend to be pretty expensive, are more highly regulated than most firearms and firearm components, and take an absurdly long wait until you actually get it in your hands. And aside from legal bullshit, physically, they add length and weight to your rifle. All of that is worth the hearing safety and courtesy to neighbors, at least for me. Keep in mind though, with supersonic rifle rounds, it's not going to be hearing safe without ears, but it does make it so that I don't have to double up on ear protection. My parents' place where I usually shoot have neighbors as close as 200 yards away in a couple directions, so limiting the noise I produce while shooting is always just a nice thing to do, even though I've asked, they don't really care that I shoot so frequently. There are also tactical benefits to using a suppressor both in military and police applications, but also when considering civilian home defense. In the military applications, even with supersonic rifle rounds, using a suppressor makes it much harder for a hostile to locate where you're shooting from. The flash reduction is also a benefit, especially during the night. Nothing will cause your nods to auto-gate like a fireball from Mark 18. It'll also give your position away, which is no bueno. For police applications, suppressors are helpful in, again, protecting the hearing of officers and bystanders, but also in differentiating between a suspect's and an officer's shots. Keeping your hearing after firing shots makes it easier to issue commands to a suspect and to listen to fellow officers. I am neither police, yet, I don't know, that might be a career path, nor military, also a potential, so I'm mostly interested in the civilian applications of a suppressor. For a civilian, chances are, if you need to use lethal force to protect yourself and your family, you're not going to have time to grab hearing protection. Limiting permanent hearing damage you suffer is always a good idea if possible, and again, keeping your hearing makes it easier to issue commands to an injured intruder, or to communicate with your family in a high-stress situation. Alright, with serious applications of a suppressor out of the way, let's get into some suppressor terminology, and if you should go for a general use or a specific use can. K, German for kurz, which means short, is what the community and a lot of companies use to designate shortened cans, because German is cool, I guess. Which, yeah, it is cool. L usually designates long, or lang, if you want to continue being German, and companies usually don't have a specific designation for their standard size cans, but Dead Air does with the Sandman. They call it the Sandman S. Why did I go with the Sandman K instead of the Sandman S? Well, a few reasons. First, it was about $150 cheaper, which in hindsight is dumb, but at the time that allowed me to purchase it a full paycheck earlier. I've got bills to pay and only have a certain amount of disposable income per paycheck, like most people, so, you know. I also went with it because I wanted something a little bit lighter and more maneuverable, especially since, for the length, it's a pretty heavy can. In general, shorter suppressors are not as quiet and don't reduce flash as well as longer suppressors, but they also don't increase the back pressure as much, and at least compared to the same type of suppressor, are lighter and obviously shorter as well. You can get around this by doing something like what YHM did with their Fat Cat suppressor, which has a much wider section to accommodate for how short it is. That wider section allows you to have a lot more internal volume in the suppressor without it being very long. But in the end, I chose to go with the Sandman-K, and I kinda wish I went with the S for better sound performance, but if I went with the S, I bet I'd be complaining about how long and heavy it is, so either way I'd be bitching about something. Such is life. I got mine for $700 on Silencer Shop about 2 years ago, and after a 216-day wait, it was in my hands. Plus the $200 tax stamp and other fees I paid, around $950 total. Okay, now let's go over the specs. The Sandman-K suppressor is 5.4 inches in length, and when used with a chemo muzzle device, it only adds 2.9 inches of length past the muzzle device. Not too bad. It's 1.5 inches in diameter, and weighs 12.8 ounces. If you include a chemo muzzle device, you're at just over a pound for the total suppressor package. It's full auto rated and rated for cartridges up to 300 Remington Ultra Magnum. That's a fucking spicy meatball right there. And the can has no barrel length restrictions. It comes with either a black or flat dark earth Cerakote coating. If you want to LARP as a SOCOM guy, go for the FDE. Utilizes a traditional baffle stack design, not a flow-through design that's becoming more popular these days. The baffles are made of a Cobalt 6 alloy that's known as stellite. Stellite is unfathomably durable and resistant even when hot, which explains how it's full auto rated for short barrels and with such powerful cartridges. The front of the suppressor is threaded, so you can swap from a 30 caliber end cap to a 22 caliber end cap, or even a device that's known as the EBra, which I'll go over later. The NFA engraving is forward near the end cap, which is generally not desirable, but unless you have some hilariously fucked up alignment issues, it shouldn't be a problem in the event of a catastrophic failure. For those unaware, you cannot reserialize an NFA item. If the engraving is destroyed, the whole thing needs a new tax stamp and 900 billion day wait for the Form 4 to clear. All Dead Air suppressors come with a lifetime warranty, and the suppressors are actually not currently manufactured by Dead Air, but by a company called KG Made. This will be important later. Now onto the main appeal of suppressors and what makes them legally a suppressor: sound suppression. It's a 30 caliber K can, meaning that this suppressor probably won't be very quiet on any hosts, and wouldn't you know, that's the case here. On a 16-inch 5.56 AR, it's actually not too bad with one layer of EarPro on. But without EarPro, it's still painful for my fairly well-preserved hearing. It does mask the report pretty well, so if you plan to use this in a military setting, still pretty useful. On a 10.3-inch 5.56 AR, it's still really loud. It takes the edge off, but there's no hope in it being hearing safe with a barrel this short. On an AK-74 with a 16-inch barrel firing 5.45 by 39, it's a tad louder than the 16-inch 5.56 AR. On a 20-inch 308 AR-10, it again takes the edge off, but 308 is very difficult to suppress and get quiet, despite what a certain idiot at a main FFL would lead you to believe. If you know, you know. Now, on a 10.5-inch 300 blackout, which is actually one of the longer barrel lengths for a 300 blackout, it's really not too bad with either supers or subs. Still not hearing safe with supers, but the subs, ooh. You're getting near full powder burn in a 10.5-inch barrel, so really it's not bad, even with the suppressor dry. Despite this being where the can performs the best, it's still not comfortable without EarPro. This changes, however, when you use an e-brake and run the can wet. First, let's go over the e-brake. The e-brake is essentially a compensator slash brake slash vented muzzle booster that can be threaded onto the end of the can in place of the end cap. You then thread the end cap onto the end of the e-brake. This not only reduces decibels by a slight, not really noticeable amount by allowing more gas to cool before escaping the suppressor, but it slightly reduces recoil and flash. Note that these are all slight improvements, and the cost is about $60 for an e-brake, adding a slight amount of weight and length to your rifle. I would say for the Sandman-K, it is absolutely worth getting this accessory, but I cannot speak for other Sandman variants. I also did something that I would not recommend that you repeat, and that is stacking multiple e-brakes on the end of your can. Dead Air has specifically recommended against doing this, but I'm a curious being, and I wanted to see what would happen, specifically with wet shots and multiple e-brakes. Alright, so wet shots are when you add some form of wet media into the suppressor in order to further reduce flash and sound. This works by cooling the hot gases from firing even more than just the suppressor alone. I can't find if Dead Air says that their suppressors are able to be shot wet, but considering it's a fully welded can, it should be fine. Just don't fill the whole thing up without draining it, or you might have your can explode. You just want the inside of your baffles to be wet, not submerged. Running a can wet not only eliminates first round pop, where oxygen inside the suppressor before shooting burns, causing a lot louder first shot. It also reduces flash and noise significantly. I've used water, fucking Gatorade, and soda all to the same effect, but the most effective media is usually thicker, like something like electrode gel or wire pulling gel. You generally want this thicker media to be water-based because if you use greases or oils with certain chemicals in them, you might just be poisoning yourself when you shoot. Based. I love electrode gel in particular. I've also heard people use wire pulling gel to a similar effect. Gels last longer and are usually a little bit quieter too. Plus, with an e-brake, you get a fucking red as hell muzzle signature. Just look at this shit. Now, how does this tie in with using multiple e-brakes? Well, each e-brake can hold additional fluid, meaning theoretically, the shots should be quieter, right? Correct, and I actually tested this about 10 months ago, and it worked. Here's a pretty long segment of me testing this using my 10.5-inch 300 blackout upper with a pistol lower and subsonic ammunition. Now where this potentially really shines is these e-brakes actually are able to hold a good bit of fluid. So, if we do a wet shot, this is real potential of being stupid quiet. Alright, wet shot. that causes absolutely no discomfort to the ear. I could shoot that literally all day. But, since we're here for science, let's step back down. Just the base suppressor, without an end cap too. That was still very loud. So, that is actually somewhere where the e-brakes make a significant difference. We're back to e-brake with no cap. Filled up with fluids again. That is so fucking cool, dude. Okay. Alright. Malfunction of some sort. Failure to feed, actually. No fucking way, dude. That is amazing. Each additional e-brake past 1 starts giving diminishing results, so 3 is the absolute max I would realistically ever consider trying. Also, each e-brake you add increases your chances of an end cap strike, so maybe don't do it. Okay, now on to flash reduction, which is one of the other big benefits Suppressors provides. I've found that on a Sandman-K with a standard 30 caliber end cap, you get a little pencil of flame from the muzzle on a 16-inch 5.56 gun. You get barely any flash from a 20-inch 308, a 10.5 300 blackout, and a 16-inch 5.45 by 39 AK, but on a 10.3 5.56, holy shit. Depending on the ammo you use, you get anywhere from a small fireball to a fucking huge one. PPU 62 grain 5.56 in particular threw some huge fireballs, and I'm pretty sure PPU doesn't use a flash suppressant in their powder, at least for that specific load. There are ways to reduce flash though. There are flash hider versions of the end cap and a 5.56 specific version as well. I haven't gotten either of them because damn, that price, but specifically have not gone with the 5.56 one because I know for a fact that I will forget to switch out the end cap and ruin it by sending a 308 through the 5.56 end cap like a silly goose. It's also said that the 5.56 end cap also reduces decibels slightly, but it doesn't seem to be worth it, at least for me. I don't own one to test that theory, but that's what I've heard, and I might pick one up to test at some point. The e-brake definitely reduces flash by a noticeable amount, but it can't tame the fireballs from a short-barreled 5.56. Not without a wizard-staffed length of e-brakes, at least. While sound reduction and flash reduction suffer in K-length suppressors, back pressure is improved. Back pressure is how much extra gas is shot back down the gas system and bore due to restriction of the gases escaping the muzzle. Since this can uses a traditional baffle stack, it increases back pressure by a noticeable amount. That being said, being a 30 caliber can and being a K can, it doesn't increase back pressure by all that much. Pew Science recorded the back pressure increase to be incredibly small in relation to many other rifle suppressors. I'll link to the article in the description if you want to read up on it. Despite that, I still was able to tune my 10.3 inch upper to run only with the can attached. I tuned it using a YHM suppressor on the gas block, and I have a separate video on that process if you're interested. So despite a back pressure increase existing and being easily noticeable, it's still far less than other cans, including even the Sandman S. The Sandman series of suppressors comes with a permanently attached chemo mounting system. I like chemo, even though it has some downsides. For one, the system is heavy, and the muzzle devices tend to be pretty long. If you're doing a pin and weld, that length is a good thing, but otherwise it's not really necessary, I don't think. That being said, you can get chemo muzzle devices for not too expensive. I got all of mine from Landbo's Armory for around $64 per muzzle device. I like chemo despite its weight. To attach, you just line up the lugs on the mounting system with the muzzle device and twist on clockwise. To get it off, you rotate counterclockwise and pull the can off. It's stupid easy. I've only once ever had it loosen up on me, and that was because I did something wrong. I didn't tighten it on all the way. Chemo muzzle devices and the mounting system also have a taper to prevent carbon locking, and to this date, I've never had this can carbon lock on me. Keep in mind that I've never shot more than 100 rounds at once without detaching and swapping the can onto other guns, so keep that in mind. I haven't done longevity testing for this. There's also the Key Micro variant, which is shorter, lighter, and uses shorter muzzle devices. The disadvantage is that you can't use normal chemo muzzle devices with it, of course. There's no room. If memory serves, you can also use Key Micro with normal chemo, so that's neat. Echo Machine offers a service where they circumcise your Sandman and thread it for the Silencer Co. hub thread pitch. Do keep in mind that this will void your warranty with Dead Air if you choose this route, but it'll allow you to use a myriad of mounting solutions. On to the durability of the can and the wear I've experienced. After a little over 2,500 rounds, there's really not much wear on the first baffle to speak of due to the stellite material they're made from. If we look at this end cap, we can see some pretty significant erosion from the 2,500 rounds. These end caps are made from 17-4 stainless steel, so this should help you visualize how tough the stellite baffles are. If we look at this muzzle brake, which has about 1,000 rounds of 5.45 and 5.56 through it, you can see some pretty good erosion in there too. Pretty sure that the muzzle devices are made from 17-4 stainless as well. I went over this in my suppressing a 10.3 video, but muzzle brakes on quick attach suppressors act as sacrificial baffles and reduce wear overall on the rest of the can. Oh boy, time for some juicy industry drama. The short version is that when Dead Air released their Sierra 5 dedicated 5.56 suppressor, there was an uncharacteristic amount of people reporting catastrophic failures. I don't mean just weld failures, but the baffles straight up disintegrating like fucking graham crackers. I've seen pretty close to triple-digit examples of this happening, where it is actually confirmed to be a suppressor issue and not user error. A couple of the people that are reporting weld failures actually were just having loose end caps, so keep that in mind. What wasn't great was Dead Air refusing to make a public statement about the situation. They were even hiding comments about the Sierra 5 on their socials. Not a good look. It seems like to this day, Dead Air's customer service for the Sierra 5 is hardly existent, which is tragic for a company that for years had a reputation of having some of the best customer service in the NFA game. These baffle disintegration issues seem to be isolated to the Sierra 5 for the most part, but some Sandmans of course have had failures as well, but they're nowhere near as common. I've heard theories that this is caused by poor heat treat on the stellite baffles, causing them to be far too hard and brittle, which could be the case, but I don't know for sure. I'm not a metallurgist. I have done blacksmithing, but that's only with steel. I don't know what the fuck is going on with stellite, bro. Even if the quality control issues are isolated to the Sierra 5, the customer service might not be. About a year later, there are still people trying to RMA their Dead Air products and being met with occasional emails or just silence. I thankfully haven't had the opportunity to test out their full suppressor customer service, but I did get a little end cap clip and was able to test their general customer service, let's say. Only customer service experience I have is with the end cap clip and asking if you're supposed to clean out the can after shooting corrosive ammo. The answer to the latter is to soak it in a 50-50 mix of water and CLP to get all the corrosive salts out. But onto the end cap clip, I sent them a picture, and about 8 days later I got a response. Now that's not that bad of a response time, but it did take the end cap 5 weeks to show up, and it took about 4 weeks for it to actually ship out. Not great, but at least I was able to remedy the situation. Also a side note, the end cap clip was due to a Winchester AIM-855 that decided it didn't want to stabilize that day. So, that was cool. So in conclusion, would I recommend the Sandman-K? Honestly, even disregarding the recent events with Dead Air, I'll say no for most buyers. But that's not because it's a bad can, but because it's a very niche can. That goes for the entire Sandman series, really. These are bomb-proof suppressors that are meant for use on machine guns, and the majority of civilians can't afford to buy a machine gun, so that capability isn't going to be utilized by most. Fuck the Hughes Amendment, by the way. That does mean, however, that unless you're firing 6-digit rounds through it per year, there's a good chance that Sandman suppressor will last your entire life. Maybe just needing a recoring at some point. If we're talking about the Sandman-K specifically, I would only recommend it to someone who knows what they're getting into. It's an absolute tank of a suppressor, while also being pretty short. That being said, it is heavy for the performance it provides. Nothing except 300 blackout subs with a wet suppressor are going to be even close to hearing safe with this thing. But if you understand that, and you just want to take the edge off while not having to worry about baffle erosion, as much as some other suppressors, then I would say it isn't a bad option. Or, if you are wealthy enough to own a transferable machine gun, this is a solid option as well. If you're an SOT and can manufacture new machine guns, then by all means, go fucking crazy with these things. Overall though, other cans like an Otter Creek Polonium, either the 22 or 30 caliber versions, are cheaper, lighter, and better for a civilian overall. Probably going to be my next can. If you're still dead set on a Dead Air can despite everything, probably should go for a Nomad. It's lighter, and it isn't quite as overbuilt as a Sandman is. I would say the Sierra 5 is worth having a look at for a dedicated 5.56 can from Dead Air, but after that whole situation, I am not fucking touching that thing with a 20-foot pole. But while a suppressor is a valuable tool, it's meaningless if you're not efficient with your weapon. Get out there and train, eat healthy, take care of your mental health, and overall, just live your best life, homies. Take care.